Hispanic, and I vote for Mr. Trump. We vote for Mr. Trump. Yes, Mr. Trump. We love you. We love you. All the way to the White House.
Beyond betrayed. They used us. They actually, during the campaign, and I don't want to make this political, but during the campaign, the elected officials from the Republican Party, they actually told us that he was not going to touch the documented people.
Give me my husband back. Like, ICE came and just took my husband from my house.
Amy Phan's husband, Wee Phan, has been in immigration custody for the last month. The couple has 2 kids, aged 11 and 3.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
My 3-year-old's just like, he just asked where daddy is. Like, where's daddy? Like, he's not used to daddy not being here.
Amy is American. Wee came to the U.S. as a refugee after the Vietnam War.
He moved here with his aunt. He tried to get citizenship, just like normal people. Everybody in his family was granted citizenship to him. And the reason that his paperwork actually states that the reason that they didn't give him citizenship was simply based on the fact that he wasn't the son of his aunt that came here with him.
Wee is among thousands of former refugees from the Vietnam War being targeted for removal.
I didn't specifically know about my immigration status because I came here when I was 6 years old. And when I got here, the woman said, she was like, do you know why you're arrested? And I said, no, I don't. She said, because you overstayed your visa. You came here in 2013, and in 2015 you overstayed. And I told her, I was like, ma'am, I was 7 years old. Like, I don't know nothing about that stuff. Like, I don't understand how it works. I saw a car behind me. I thought it was a normal car, and I just kept driving normally. And then he pulled me over right when I got into my friend's house in her driving lot. He stopped right behind me, and he got out his car, turned on his lights. And he knocked on my window and he said, can you get out of your car? Why? And he told me to give him my license and registration, which I did. And whatever, it took some time. I was in shock. I didn't know what was going on. And he ended up saying, why? Do you know why you're under arrest? And I said, no, I don't. Why? And he said, because you're illegal. You're an immigrant. But like, he gave me no reason to stop me. No reason for a traffic stop, nothing. And apparently they say they're trying to get my dad, but I'm here, like, not my dad, so that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
The Trump administration is now detaining legal residents who have lived here for half of a century. I'm not going to stop talking about these people, because if we do, they disappear forever, and you shouldn't believe anyone who says that fighting back on immigration is bad politics. So let me give you a quick rundown of some of the most alarming stories from just the last couple of weeks. Llewellyn Dixon is a 64-year-old woman who works as a lab tech at the University of Washington. She's been a permanent legal resident of the United States for 50 years. But when she returned from visiting family in the Philippines, ICE arrested her at the airport and held her in detention for 3 months. Marcelo Gomez de Silva, an 18-year-old high school student in Massachusetts, was on his way to volleyball practice when ICE pulled him over. Marcelo was brought to the United States as a child in 2012 and was given a student visa. He has no criminal record, but when ICE pulled him over looking for his father, he was arrested and detained. He was supposed to play in the band at graduation, but he's sitting in ICE detention. Also in Massachusetts, Semaron Faria de Souza, the father of a 4-month-old baby, was pulled over on his way to work when he honked at an undercover car full of ICE agents. They arrested him, detained him, and signed a deportation order in his name without his consent, and he's now been deported to Brazil. And in Mississippi, a 31-year-old Danish man named Casper Eriksson, who's lived in the U.S. for 10 years on a green card, went to a routine appointment to finalize his U.S. citizenship. But after they discovered that he failed to file a single document more than 10 years ago, while he was still mourning the loss of his first child, he was detained by ICE. The Trump administration isn't deporting criminals or gang members. They're deporting students, neighbors, fathers, people who have lived here for longer than fascist Stephen Miller has been alive. We have to keep these stories in the spotlight, because if we don't, they'll continue using the cover of darkness to disappear people and take more of our rights.
Hello, my good people. How are you doing? I hope you're keeping safe from wherever you're watching this video from, and welcome back to the channel. Now, recently we have been observing what's been taking place in America, and it's sad, and it seems America has descended into chaos. It looks like uh, they're just on the brink of a civil war erupting in this country. And there is a lot we have observed, and of course, there is a lot we have also learned from this. And I think it is a good opportunity for people in and outside of America to really take this opportunity to learn and just be safe. It's better to be safe than to be sorry. This is going to have a ripple effect countrywide. Any American, regardless of your location in America, regardless of maybe your race, you need to be wary of what's really taking place right now, because it's going to have a deep ripple effect socially, economically, and politically. Now, I want us to really observe some of these that is happening, the craziness, the madness, and at the end of this video, we're going to talk about some of the consequences that might really result out of this.
Donald Trump, the US president, ordering a military rollout on American soil. 2,000 National Guard soldiers have been mobilised as tensions reignite in Los Angeles over immigration raids. Chaos reigning as protesters squared off with federal officials.
The streets of LA, now a battlefield. Police and Border Patrol officers on one side, staring down protesters on the other.
It looks like a war zone over here, guys.
Shopping trolleys strewn across streets, fires too, used to shut down lanes. Pallets of concrete blocks brought in to form more makeshift blockades. The situation unravelling for a second day after immigration and customs enforcement officers in tactical gear moved in to the southern LA suburb of Paramount. Officers moving forward, pushing protesters who trip over others lying on the ground.
These agents that have been lining up here guarding this street and throwing out those flashbang grenades, you can see how heavily armed they are.
As some of the Border Patrol vehicles try to leave, they're met with an aerial assault. Dozens hurling rocks, cracking windscreens as they drive past. From inside the cars, officers in masks struggling to make out the projectiles and protesters through the tear gas-filled air. Another group sets a car on fire. Dozens more storm a highway, forming a human barricade in an attempt to stop this federal marshal's bus.
I don't know who is on this bus. I don't know if anyone is on this bus, but they are kind of trying to creep forward.
The crowd chanting, demanding the release of detainees.
People first and then policy. This is not the way, guys. We're heartbroken. It's very unbelievable to see all this. Never thought it was going to happen in our own neighborhood.
These surprise raids, part of the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. ICE agents arresting dozens of undocumented migrants, a move met with anger from Angelenos.
The situation here has spiralled into a face-off between protesters and these federal agents. They are using flashbang grenades to try and disperse this crowd. There is tear gas heavy in the air. If I can just show you here, this is the scene. Oh, we're just going to step away there. This is the scene right now.
That gas, so strong it's overpowering. Protesters offering water and milk to each other, and us as well.
We're over here just trying to help the people.
We keep coming back as well. They're not gonna get rid of us like that.
The violence spreading across the country. These clashes outside ICE headquarters in New York. In Los Angeles, several people have been arrested for alleged assaults on federal agents, a situation unlikely to be diffused quickly. Donald Trump calling in the military, deploying 2,000 soldiers, California's governor slamming the decision.
We're already ahead of the game. We're already mobilizing. We're going to bring National Guard in.
Tonight, the military mobilised on American soil, an extraordinary move dividing the City of Angels.
President Donald Trump has ordered 2,000 National Guard troops to disperse protesters who are rioting on the streets of Los Angeles, furious about dozens of immigration raids across the city. As tensions build into a second day, the dramatic escalation by the White House has been slammed by some Democrats as inflammatory.
A city on edge as the fight over who can call America home explodes. Riot police deployed flashbang grenades and tear gas, and even used rubber bullets to clear crowds gathering unlawfully. But as day turned to dusk, the chaos still could not be contained. With cars set alight and slurs against immigration enforcement graffitied over the city. Earlier, this man in the helmet was filmed throwing rocks at Border Patrol vans. Others blocked what appeared to be a Marshal Service vehicle.
They could not kidnap people in our community today because the people came out to resist.
Senior White House aide Stephen Miller condemned the scenes as a violent insurrection against the United States. While ringside at the UFC, President Trump landed a few hits of his own, deploying the National Guard to LA and blaming Californian Democrats for the chaos. Posting if Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass can't do their jobs, which everyone knows they can't, then the federal government will step in and solve the problem. A problem protesters claim he started. On Friday, dozens of people were arrested in raids across the city.
You are impeding our duties as federal law enforcement officers and preventing us from carrying out our official and lawful
all accused of immigration violations.
They're not even criminals, just regular, hardworking people.
We received reports that they were being detained in the basement without beds, without food, and without water.
You cannot just come into the community and terrorize citizens the way you did, not knowing if you are arresting American citizens.
The immigration crackdown has lit a fuse, with backlash building from coast to coast. With more raids expected, the fallout is far from over.
Now, I believe we have Mayor Karen Bass on the phone with us tonight. If that is true, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's good to have you here. First of all, Mayor, we'd like to ask you your reaction to what we saw last night and then what we saw again today.
Well, I just have to tell you that, there were many, many families that were traumatized by ICE coming to the workplace, or what happened at the Home Depot to the day laborers center. So people are very traumatized. Kids and families went to the workplaces to see if their kin were actually there or if they had been moved. We know now that most of the people that were detained have been moved to an outlying area, Adelanto. And one of the biggest issues is the fact that the detainees have not had access to legal representation. Now, having said that, and I absolutely believe and have been pushing, even at the level of the White House, that people be allowed to have legal counsel. Having said that, there is no excuse for violence. We cannot have violence in this city. Even if people feel what has happened is terribly unjust, we cannot tear our city apart.
Mayor Bass, on that point, the Trump administration has named you and other local and state leaders here in California directly saying that you guys are to blame for some of the agitation that we've seen, these agitators clashing with law enforcement at night. What is your message to, in response to that, and have you been in touch with anyone from the Trump administration?
Yes, I have been in touch with representatives of the Trump administration. Obviously, I reject the notion that I personally or the governor had anything to do with the protests that have taken place in our city. I have been clear from day one, everybody has the right to express their viewpoints, their First Amendment freedoms in this country, but it is never acceptable for that to reach the level of violence, period. And if violence occurs, people will be held fully accountable.
And your reaction to President Trump calling in the National Guard?
Well, I most certainly hope that that is not needed. I understand that he has federalized the National Guard and that 200 troops could be available, but I did talk to the administration and I told them that I did not think that that was going to be necessary in the city of Los Angeles. And of course, my concern that a militaristic presence like that could actually result in more violence in terms of people in the city. We have been through this before. I was here in 1992, and the last thing I want to see is a repeat of that. So I think that the federal government needs to have caution. I do believe, after a couple of conversations I had with high representatives of the administration, that there will be caution. That's what I am hopeful for, because I do not believe that this will be necessary to have a presence of 2,000 National Guard troops in our city.
Mayor, this is Conan Nolan. Listen, in just talking a little while ago with the U.S. Attorney for the Central District, Bill O'Saley, he was pleased with your comments about people should not be rioting, people should not be there should not be violence on the streets of L.A. or any other city in Los Angeles County over this. But at the same time, he said, listen, we've been doing this for months now. What we've been doing is nothing new. What is different, he claims, is that there's now a system by which any kind of information about an ICE operation sends out through social media, and it galvanizes this kind of response. For example, he said that they were staging outside a federal building which happens to be next to the Home Depot in Paramount. They weren't operating. Home Depot was not part of their operation. They were sending agents to various places for single issue search and arrest warrants, which they said they conducted. But they said they're seeing the U.S. Attorney is saying they're seeing a very troubling pattern of them being followed, and all of a sudden social media is advocating for people to show up and commit violent acts. Do you have any information from the LAPD that that's the case?
Well, let me just say that I think it's an example of the fact that Angelenos have seen these situations happen around the country, and you can only imagine if they were organizing across the street from a Home Depot where there's day laborers who in many instances are undocumented. You can imagine that they were fearful, that they thought that they were going to be experiencing a raid. My understanding is that people were running through the parking lot. I don't know if it's true that they were being chased by ICE, but listen to the setup you just described. Of course people would feel very much afraid because of what happened. And then I know that there was the incident in Paramount. So I think that it is important that when the federal government is local, that they coordinate, or at least communicate, I would say, better with local officials so that people know that this is happening. So the word on the street was there was a raid at Home Depot. And those kind of things create a sense of chaos and uncertainty in our city, and that doesn't help anyone. And that also, I believe, makes the city vulnerable to violence because people are just reacting. If people knew what was happening, knew what was going on, maybe the reactions wouldn't be what they were.
Mayor Bass, you talked about that chaos and that uncertainty. Los Angeles is a city of immigrants. That is the beauty of our city. But there are so many families, countless families out there who you represent, who are terrified, frankly, to go outside or to see their relatives go outside or to travel or to even go to work or go to the grocery store. What do you say to people who may be undocumented or have undocumented members in their family who see these images and they don't know what to do?
Well, exactly right, and that's the sense of fear that people have in the city. I remember several years ago, kids wouldn't go to school because they were afraid their parents wouldn't be home when they came home. And so this is the type of thing that I wish there was another way of going about it, because I do believe that these efforts like this can create a sense of chaos and fear in the communities, and then you have these reactions. Again, There is never a time when violence is acceptable. It just isn't. And I am concerned that acts of violence is going to open us up to having 2,000 troops on our street. And you know, Bear, and especially Conan knows, that's the worst thing that could happen in our city. If you talk about violence, I am worried that that could be a catalyst for more violence.
And Mayor, but to the point that, listen, we knew this was coming. There was an election. Donald Trump is not a new player to this. We've had him for 4 years before that. Not to mention the fact that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the U.S. Attorney will say, we didn't make the law. You were a member of Congress for years. If you wanted to change it, that's where you do it. We're just enforcing federal law.
Oh, my. Conan, you know very well that people tried for so many years. I mean, the latest was last year when you had a bipartisan bill for immigration reform that was killed. And so the idea that, yes, the law should be made in Washington, that's absolutely the case. But if the response of leadership is to kill anything that has to do with immigration reform, that contributes to the situation that we're in right now.
And Mayor Bass, I was just wondering, yesterday, especially in Paramount, we saw young people just trying to find out information about their parents who have been detained.
Right.
And then later, they were saying they can't even get in to see them. Have you heard anything about that? And by chance, do you know the number of arrests made so far?
Well, I have heard that it's around between 48 and 50. That's what I heard. But that was like yesterday. I know that there were more arrests made today, but they were not ICE-related arrests. They were arrests because of vandalism at the protest and also because an unlawful assembly was declared. But I think that, you know, regardless of the numbers, I am very, very worried that the numbers will increase if there is a massive show of force from the National Guard. That is just not helpful in the city of Los Angeles.
Is there communication, Mayor, I assume, between the LAPD, Jim McDonald, obviously your office, but also with whoever will be heading up the National Guard response? I mean, it seemed to me that a recipe for major disaster is for the federal government to operate independently of the local jurisdictions.
Well, and you know that's exactly what happens with ICE. You know, the local law enforcement is not notified, has no notice that this is getting ready to happen, and basically, oftentimes, the first time local law enforcement knows is when the community responds. But it is very difficult to tell the community don't respond. I mean, it is what happens. Social media is what we all have to deal with in every aspect of our life, and social media is absolutely putting on line when there are sightings of ICE. And so, you know, again, this is just a very, very troubling time. I'm not sure what the goal is here. You know, I'm not sure who it is that they're taking into, into the interview, into custody.
And Mayor Bass, as we're talking to you, we're looking at images of an AM/PM. I believe this was in Paramount that was broken into, and we're still seeing people there. A lot of activity still there. And as we're watching on the right side of our screen, an earlier shot of LAPD officers there on the ground in downtown. Are you expecting an increased police presence overnight, into tomorrow, through the week?
Well, basically, there will be the type of police presence that is needed. My understanding, the last time I talked to the command station, is that everything had died down in downtown Los Angeles. But what I'm confident is that if it kicks up at some point tonight, LAPD will be ready. LAPD will not be missing in action, as was rumored that LAPD was nowhere around. We will not accept violence of any form at any time in our city.
Mayor Bass, we just want to thank you so much for taking this much time with us to talk about this and very important issue tonight.
Oh.
Okay, now from the very beginning of this raids activity or this activity by the ICE agents, I personally could poke a lot of holes into these activities from a few things that, generally sounded a bit not very acceptable. Like, for example, how they were handling the kids, or even, detaining the kids arbitrarily. So raids and arbitrary detentions, really raised a lot of questions. And then there was denial of legal representation, denial of family access, and then we had the lack of such warrants, and then we had them waiting for people outside courtrooms to arrest and detain them. And I was just asking myself, really, if these people are criminals, they want to term them, or breaking the law, why are these people showing up in courts? Why are these people going to work like ordinary other Americans? Anyway, the political situation has a way of just abruptly turning a country into total chaos, and without notice. And with if you are not careful as ordinary everyday American citizens, you'd not even realize when and how your country quickly descends into a civil eruption, a civil war. That's why many Americans need to be wary of this situation, regardless of who you are, what are your political alienations, and racial alienations, because this is definitely going to affect all of you. Some of the things I really observed as the long-term impacts of such an activity by being carried out by this Trump administration, then we can just run over them quickly, is the social and psychological impact. And when we talk about the social impact, we're going to talk about the fear. You're going to take note of the fear that is going to grip that country. And even those documented immigrants are are also going to be, gripped with that fear, because we have even seen people complain of being detained, even though they believe they are legally and rightfully supposed to be there. And then we talk about the mental issues, and here I'm really thinking about the kids, the anxiety, the stress, and the trauma that is going to come with family separations. And then number two, other than the social psychological impact, we have the inevitable economical consequence or challenge: labor shortages. We have seen them go to warehouses, places of work, and arrest and detain people. What does that mean? Those job positions are going to be left vacant. That is how job shortages would begin. Price increase would also be a ripple effect. If a company is struggling to get people to work, usually that impact is going to be trickled down to the finished product, and prices are likely going to go up. And then the economic stagnation of some places, especially look at places that have large immigrant populations, say cities like LA, and we know that definitely that's a city of immigrants, and the diversity that is there. And if you're going to do this, you're going to probably send that city into economic stagnation. And number three, sorry, is the legal and constitutional challenges. We're going to see civil rights going to courts, many courts. Many lawsuits and cases are going to be filed. There is going to be backlash and court battles, and spending a lot of time on a problem that you probably began for yourselves. We have seen local governments refusing to actually cooperate with the federal government, and that is always a recipe to a constitutional crisis. Number four is a political polarization. And when we talk about political situation, is having a politically charged country is not good at all for business, and for everyday living. People that are so politically charged, you're always a Democrat or a Republican, you know, unconsciously or even consciously. We are left wingers, you are right wingers, and this division, you know, continues to go deep, to cut deep, and it's going to affect other areas of life that probably you never thought this would touch. And it would even go to as deep as you're white and you are people of color, and those are not things that I think America envisages. And we talk about the international relations and the global image of that country. Talk about the reputation. People have been saying continuously lately that America is you know, the tourism sector is dwindling, is going down. Now, with what has been happening with you know, the situation in America, and now you're going to add this into that boiling, already very hot and boiling pot, then people are going to be afraid of, you know, looking the American way. And Americans themselves have been living in droves at the country. You can imagine if anybody else is really going to, you know, consider going to a place where everybody is trying to live, and it's that is politically charged, that prices are going up, that the inflation and, you know, such things are the reputation of that country that has been always held so high for all that time is really going to plummet, and then strained relations with other countries, say Mexico and the Caribbeans and Central America, and then potentially a more immigrant crisis. You're taking back these people to places that they're probably running out of those places for some reasons, some political reasons, some you know, economic reasons, or even religious reasons. They might try to sneak back, and now you're creating a bigger, a way bigger problem for yourself and for those other people. And then my last point in this observation was the underground economies and the shadow populations that are going to sprout. Now, when we talk about shadow populations or the underground economies, you're going to have people avoiding schools, avoiding hospitals, avoiding even reporting crimes because they fear that they're going to expose themselves into scrutiny, into being detained and deported. And what that means is obviously then crime will find a good and conducive environment to grow. Then there's going to be, obviously from an economical perspective, then there's going to be a lot of exploitation. If employers knew that we have shadow populations, we have people that are under the cover that don't want to be recognized as being here, and then some rogue employers might even take advantage of that and exploit such populations, and that is obviously not you know, what is desired. Yeah, so I think it is time that more Americans came to the front, you know, forgot about because one thing about politics and politicians is they're selfish, and when things are out of hand, they always have a card to play. They even leave the country. They can even run out of the country after, you know, plunging the country into chaos. They will leave you to fight amongst yourselves, and they can always disappear and seek refuge elsewhere. It's time to remove those masks, political masks, and wear the mask of being American and come together for what is exactly right for that country. It is okay to, you know, uphold the law, and everybody need to be subjected to the law if you need to stay in America. But in what way? It has also to be lawfully. You cannot enforce the law by breaking the law. Yeah, that is it for this video, and let's continue to observe what's going to really happen, and we will keep ourselves updated. yeah, do share your thoughts, your comments, as usual, in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up, and you might want to share this video as well with your friends and your family, and subscribe to this channel. So until next time, see you in the next video. Peace out.